What's going on, you guys? My name's Ty Knotts, and welcome to Top 5 Unknowns. 5 more crimes solved by TV appearances. Number 5. Luciana Byrne is a 39-year-old woman and a mother of 3 children. She took part in the UK cooking series Master Chef back in 2009 and did an impressive job. She was regarded as being attractive, intelligent, and talented, showing lots of potential as a chef. However, her story quickly changed when a council member began to refer to her as a celebrity crook who'd allegedly cheated out taxpayers. These accusations became public as soon as a member of an investigative department recognized her on the show and found numerous contradictions in her supposed life story. On the show, she painted a much different picture of herself than she did in the real world. According to the information she provided to government agencies, she was a single mother who was struggling just to get by. She'd been married, but that marriage fell apart, leaving her and the children behind to fend for themselves. However, on the show, she claimed to be happily married. She'd received more than $36,000 in government assistance by this point, all of which was apparently granted to suit a lifestyle which she was truthfully no part of. The investigative department then decided to contact BBC to clear up any misinformation. It was then that they found out her television persona was actually true. She'd been living happily married to her husband all along. He had even signed several forms that were required to get Luciana on the show. His address and phone number were also listed exactly the same as Luciana's. Luciana was then sent to trial for this and given an 11-month suspended prison sentence. She was also required to work community service for 150 hours unpaid. Number 4. In 2014, the television series The Briefs gave viewers insight into the world of crime lawyers, as well as several of their clients who were located in Manchester. Alex Templar was one man who had appeared on the show. He was considered to be a small-time criminal and played a fairly minor role in the overall plot. However, in the same week that the show had been broadcast, a police officer had been reviewing CCTV footage that had been captured from a nearby business, appearing to show Alex breaking into the building and stealing an iPad and an iPhone, just meters away from a government building. The officer noticed that the man in the program bore a striking resemblance to the man in the CCTV footage, and quickly called him in for questioning. As it would turn out, Alex actually admitted to taking the devices, and even explained that he walked backward in the footage to try to obscure his face more effectively. In his own words, he made his way into the offices and car rental firm, and helped himself to the valuables inside. He was arrested, and the clothing that he'd been wearing in the footage was later found inside his home. However, despite having been arrested several times before, he insisted that he was strictly being targeted for the crime due to his involvement in the TV program. A judge stated that Alex was one of the most dishonest men he'd ever seen in his courtroom, and sentenced him to 18 months in prison. Number 3. Katie Nichols was a young woman from Tennessee. A local news crew was documenting a crime scene which involved an older woman who'd been stabbed near Knoxville. The suspect in the case had not been identified at this point, but a neighbor came forward alleging that the woman had, without a doubt, been attacked by her own daughter, pointing the blame toward Katie Nichols. The neighbor stated that she hoped Katie would return to the crime scene at some point so that she could be pointed out to officers. And almost as if it were scripted, Katie did just that. Just minutes later, she returned to the crime scene. However, what shocked everyone involved is that she calmly approached the camera crew and took full responsibility for her actions. Except she did cast much of the blame onto her own mother. She insisted that her mother had actually been part of a cult, and that she'd been casting spells on her for up to 4 days, trying to take her life. Katie believed that her mother was the Antichrist, and that she was somehow related to every nuclear explosion that would ever take place on Earth. In fact, Katie even invited the news crew inside the apartment to show off some of her mother's cult paraphernalia, but the crew immediately declined. Katie was arrested just moments later and stated that she regretted her mother had not passed away in the attack. Her mom was taken to an intensive care unit but did recover. She was able to heal enough in the following days to give her account of the attack, which landed Katie in prison. Number 2. This was a topic we actually covered a couple years ago, but given the context of this video and the additional information that's now available, it seemed pretty safe to revisit the story. This story is a bit different from the others, in that a man named Juan Catalana actually used his television appearance to escape a prison sentence after he'd been seen in the background of an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm. In May of 2003, a young girl lost her life after being shot outside of her home in Fernando Valley. The shot was supposedly committed in retaliation for a statement that the girl had given concerning a criminal case that involved her own brother. Juan Catalana had some fairly minor ties to the girl, but authorities somehow made the accusations stick, with him being sentenced to life in prison. Police called in additional eyewitnesses to give their account of the case, and they each named Juan as the suspect. Juan begged law enforcement to give him a lie detector test, but they denied him on 3 separate occasions. He also had 2 Dodgers tickets from the evening that the attack took place, proving that he couldn't have been at the young girl's home at the time. But still, police refused to believe him. However, after a couple months of prison time, Juan had somewhat of an epiphany. He recalled that an HBO film crew had been at the sports game that he'd been attending. They were filming a scene for an upcoming episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm. Juan had previously tried to prove his innocence at the game by using CCTV, but the cameras were far too blurry to definitively identify him in the crowd. However, the filming for the episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm was taking place immediately in front of where Juan had been sitting at the game. Juan's lawyer attended a private viewing of the unreleased episode with Larry David himself, and did indeed spot Juan in the audience that evening. The screenshots were then given to the court system to defend Juan's innocence, and in January of 2004, he was released from prison. Juan later received over $320,000 in settlement funds from the state and court system after he filed a lawsuit for being wrongfully convicted. Number 1. Ray Gosling was one of UK television's most popular actors in the 1960s and 70s. He presented over 100 television documentaries and even made several hundred radio appearances. Though as time went on, his career began to fade and he was little more than a memory to many of these viewers. However, in 2010, he made a comeback, though not in the way that you may expect. He led a documentary in which he revealed that he helped take the life of his former partner who'd been suffering from AIDS. According to Ray, the victim was well informed and aware, and Ray was simply helping carry out a plan that had been requested that he be involved with. He committed the act as a doctor left the two of them alone in a hospital room back in the 90s, but he wasn't arrested until early 2010 for this, though he somehow managed to escape the charges without being convicted. Police were unable to find any substantial evidence to back up the claims, and as time went on, Ray even recanted his statements and said that he was never even present at the time of the incident. Eventually, the victim's brother spoke out against Ray, stating that the details of the case that Ray had described didn't match up with the facts of the case in any way. Ray was then arrested by police and charged for wasting police resources. He was given just a 90-day prison sentence. However, still to this day, Ray insists that at least a portion of the story he told is true, though no one knows just how much involvement Ray may or may not have had in the case. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to click that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell to keep updated with our videos.